Near, you
Yeah.
are the last one up,
Wow.
and you have
That's
another
crazy.
another big hit for us.
Yeah. So I watched Kowloon Generic Romance.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
this is a manga original from Arvo Animation and Bandai Namco Filmworks. Um,
Mhm.
Arvo has done mostly a lot of Bokuben stuff. They also did um,
Is Bandai Namco Filmworks is it like a separate spin-off, or is that the one where they sucked up either Gainax or Sunrise? I forget which one they sucked up.
yeah, I think they sucked up a good portion of Sunrise.
Mhm.
But yeah. Um, but yeah, Arvo's also worked on stuff like the Vampire Cosmonaut, Laika,
Mhm. Oh!
um,
Oh,
which
okay.
was
Uh,
which was a
I
show that
see.
Spire watched.
That
Um,
was certainly a show, yes.
yeah, and Monster Girl Doctor. So they haven't worked on a whole lot. Um,
Mhm,
I imagine they're a pretty small studio, but
mhm,
Bandai Namco Filmworks is also on this. Um, so it's got money behind it. Um, this is the I think it's worth noting that this manga is from Jun Miyazuki, who also did Koi wa Amiyagari, which is After the Rain, which is another series that I covered that I liked quite a lot. Um, I've been looking forward to this series for quite a while. It got announced for an anime
mhm.
like I don't know 3 4 years ago. Um, took its sweet
This
time.
this has a live action too, right? Or no? Am I
I
getting
it probably yeah yeah it does. I'm pretty sure it does.
okay.
Um, yeah, I've read a good chunk of this manga myself. I am a fan of the manga. So yeah, the basic premise. I'm not gonna be able to go too much into story because this is a mystery series. This is very much a
Yeah,
mystery
yeah, yeah,
series.
yeah, yeah. Fair.
Um, and pretty much any details kind of will spoil quite a bit. But the basic premise is these sort of two main characters, Kujurai Reiko and Kudo Hajime, are living in the walled city of Kowloon in Hong Kong. And if you don't know, the walled city of Kowloon was basically like a big, like walled ghetto that was in Hong Kong, and they demolished it back in the 90s or something. Um, but pretty popular sort of setting for fiction of how um, I mean, it's a pretty interesting place, right? Not too many places in the world are like that. But yeah, this is a sort of sci-fi setting where the walled city of Kowloon has been demolished multiple times and been rebuilt. Um, and our main character, Kujurai, is a girl who doesn't really have any memories of her past. She's got a crush on her coworker, and as the series goes on, sort of her lack of memories and discovering who she may have been before her memories were lost or whom she may not have been is pretty crucial to the plot. Um, and there's, a bit of romance here. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of themes of discovering one's sense of self. Um, there's a lot of um, the idea of holding on to the past versus letting go of the past, moving on to new things versus, you know, uh, cherishing the memories and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in this series. There's a lot. Um, there's sci-fi stuff. There's mystery. There's big conglomerate stuff. There's some potentially supernatural stuff going on. There's a lot. Um, and I think it's really good. I think it's very, very good. The
Mhm,
characters are all really, really well done. There's this constant sort of calling back of nostalgia. Nostalgia is a very big theme of this series. Um, again, they say pretty much all the characters say that like the reason people live in Kowloon instead of out in the fancy sci-fi world is this sort of feeling of nostalgia for the old world, right? this idea that, you know, things were better when everybody lived together in a sort of close knit, um, you know,
Right, right, right.
community. Um, you know, everybody's sort of playing, mahjong together, and all the shops are sort of these rundown little things, and every purchase sort of supports your own community, stuff like that. There's a lot of callbacks to nostalgia for this series, and that you know uh, goes into the characters, and Kujudai is sort of discovering herself, and she's kind of like, the only thing I've ever known is Kowloon. Would it be better for me to sort of leave and discover what's out there, or is it better to just kind of stay and be with people I know, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it's all very, very well done. Again, I can't go too much into story details because really, like, any detail kind of spoils a lot. Like, there are big story twists within like episode one, episode two. Um, so yeah,
Mhm.
but it's really good. I'll say the story is very, very good. It's adapted pretty well. There's some minor truncations here and there from the manga, but nothing too major. Um, all the big emotional story beats are there. Um, yeah, it's pretty good. Uh, the audio visuals I think are a pretty big thing here because again, this is from the author that was behind After the Rain, and I think their art is phenomenal. Right,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the manga has a lot of panels and pages that, like, on their own, are like framed picture worthy. Like, they're very good.
Are there like is it like panoramic or like multiple pages
Yeah,
kind of
like
thing?
multiple page spreads. There's a lot of
Oh,
stuff like
okay, I
that.
see.
They do a lot of
Mm,
stuff like that for like really emotional moments and stuff.
mhm.
And it's really, really good. And I gotta say, this show is it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me because it looks really good. I will say it looks very good. The animation is good. The art direction is good. The color grading is really good. Um, the character designs are translated very well. Um, but I have to say, After the Rain was done by Wit Studio, right? And
Mhm.
when you have Wit Studio, who has previously translated this author's works into animation, and then going to Arvo Animation in conjunction with Bandai Namco Filmworks, it's it's a noticeable step down, I'll say. Um,
Yeah, and they also yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, and, like, they also they brought in, like, the core guy for Arvo, which is Iwasaki Yoshiaki for the director, who's, like,
yeah,
okay, but it's like I feel like they should have at least brought in, like, Yokoyama Akitoshi, who did, Vampire Cosmonaut and, like, did a little bit better, like, overall job, although obviously probably they had a little bit more money there.
yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like Kowloon probably did get a decent amount of money though, right?
I would have to assume so because there's quite a
But
bit of
it's
there's
still
there's a decent amount of talent on this series. But yeah, it's
yeah,
just like
yeah,
this show looks good. Don't get me wrong. I like pretty much everything about this show, but
yeah.
knowing, like, coming from, uh, I mean, this is probably the dilemma that a lot of, I guess, manga readers face when they watch an animated sort of adaptation of a series they really like. But knowing what the series could have looked like under a studio like Wit, it's just like, fuck, you know what I mean?
What could have
Um,
been, yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's very much a sort of like, man, this really could have been like a visual masterpiece. Um, because like the sort of tone and the setting that the manga sort of sets up with the whole walled city, Kowloon, like the old school, like Hong Kong aesthetic. It like this show could have been gorgeous, like literally one of the best looking series, like within the last few years. But it's it's not, right. But it
Mm.
still looks good. It looks very good, I will say.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like, I think it could have been a bit more.
Yeah, it could have been,
unique.
like
It could have been something
yeah, it
special.
could have been a landmark, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the
Especially with the
visual.
story that it had, it could have just, like, it could have had it all
Yeah,
if
yeah, for sure.
pushed a little bit better.
But yeah, the visuals are good. I'll say. They do a very good job. The music, I have to say, is really, really good for this series. Um,
Mhm,
the the sort of standard, kind of like nothing's really happening. Background music is pretty much what you'd expect. It does its job, but the music in some of the more emotional scenes is absolutely fucking incredible. There's a season fairly, or there's a scene fairly early on in episode 3, and it's a scene where Kudo, the male lead, is in Kujirai's apartment, and he's kind of wandering around and looking at, um, some of the sites that it's sort of set up, yeah, earlier in the series that he's seen before, right? Um,
mhm,
and the background, the track that plays in the background is like so evocative of just the tone of like um the like sort of troubled romance that these two characters have going on, where Kudo is
mhm.
very conflicted in sort of how he views Kujirai, and Kujirai is kind of dancing around this sort of, does he like me, does he not like me kind of thing. Um, and it's just it sets the tone very well. Like the characters are barely even speaking, but like the
Is it like a
music.
jazzy is like a low jazz kinda thing, or, like, what's
No,
happening there?
it's just this. It's got like this acoustic string, and there's sort of like this.
Oh, it's like a tension,
Um,
yeah, it's a building tension kinda thing?
yeah, it's like this. There's this almost like a very mellow kind of like steel drum kind of thing playing in the background, and it's a very interesting track, but it just sets the mood very very well. And then there's a scene later on in episode 5 where Kujirai sort of has to um, console her best friend on sort of, again, this sort of this idea of, this image of this sense of self, like who do you view yourself as, like who are you really, right?
Mhm.
um and there's this track that plays in the background that's like this mix of piano and theremin. I'm pretty sure it's a theremin. um
Oh, okay.
and it's sort of distorted in a way that it sounds like it's playing through like an old record player, and
Mm,
it's very good at evoking, again, this sort of theme of nostalgia, right? Like this track alone sort of takes you back to this, you know this era of Kowloon and Hong Kong, and it's a really really good track. I really wish I could listen to it on its own, but unfortunately the soundtrack hasn't released yet. um
mhm,
but yeah, there's some really really good music in it, especially for the emotional scenes. It sets
mhm.
the tone very very well. Um, but yeah, audio visuals are really good. The OP is "Summertime Ghost" by Wednesday Campanella. Um, I'm a pretty big fan of Modern Wednesday Campanella. I think the track is pretty good. I don't know if it really suits an anime OP very well, but it's pretty catchy. Um,
Yeah.
the visuals are a bit standard. They're nice. They're interesting. They're very, evocative of mystery and stuff like that. Um, but it's not the craziest OP. It's kind of just there. The ED is um, Koi no Retronym by Makakushe. It's pretty good. Um, you know, it's a lot more mellow, right, as you would expect from an ED. The visuals are pretty. Um, they're a little trippy for an ED, but they're pretty simple, pretty standard.
Mhm.
But yeah, the OPED isn't really too much to write home about. Yeah, the audiovisual package I think is it's good. It's really good in my opinion. Especially from a studio like Arvo, who doesn't really have a whole lot under their belt, and not, the
Yeah.
stuff that is
And
under the belt isn't
the
exactly.
audio end is, like, tops, but it's like, you think that obviously, again, with just a little bit push, it could really, really reach,
Yeah, I think it really could have been
like,
something
anime of the year
like
contender
super
heights.
special. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because if the director sort of um again, this is asking a lot, right? Like this is me asking like for the director to kind of be like, yeah, this should be like cream of the crop kind of stuff instead of kind of just doing his job and adapting the anime. Um,
Mhm,
but like the fact that this is a sort of Kowloon anime, right? It's a pretty
mhm,
unique setting, and I think if the director sort of looked back at sort of the color grading of sort of old like Hong Kong drama movies, romance movies, stuff like that, I think that would have been really, really good. Um,
mhm.
but it's just that's basically just me asking for my cake and eating it too, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I mean, I think it's fine to ask for it. It's just like right now you're kind of filling out the points between a very good series and a series again that can be considered properly, really properly like anime of the year contender.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's where you're going
um,
here.
yeah. It's a minor gripe in my opinion, but it's just something that sort of was niggling in the back of my mind as I was watching this. But I do think
Mhm,
it is very good looking. And it's got
mhm,
this sort of unique um art style that the mangaka sort of gives to their characters. I think is translated very well. Um, but
mhm.
yeah, it just could have been more. As for the voice cast, uh, a couple notable mentions are obviously Kujudai herself. The main character is voiced by Shiraishi Haruka. Um, she has to do sort of two very different voices for this role.
What do you mean?
Because there are so again, I don't want to spoil too much. Um, but there are two Kujudais in this series, basically. Um, there's one from the past, and there's the current Kujudai, right? And
Mhm.
so
Oh, okay, okay.
for the current Kujudai, she does this sort of more airy, Genki, happier, go lucky kind of
They
voice.
didn't have two voices? Okay.
No, it's the same voice. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
and so for the past Kujudai, she does a more sort of mature, um, a much more deeper, um, almost seductive voice, and it's really really good. The sort of
Okay, I
um,
see.
the yeah the sort of like difference is it's quite impressive. Um, but yeah, it's her doing both of them. At least I'm pretty sure she's credited. It's just the one VA. But you then have Tomokazu Sugita as Kudo, male lead. Again, he does a good job, as Sugita pretty much always does. He does a very good balance between this um, sort of conflicted, almost anguished, uh, you know, um, character Kudo is, and bouncing between that and sort of a more, you know, flippant humor, sort of, using humor as sort of like a deflection tool kind of character. Um,
Mhm.
he does a really good job. He really, I guess, expresses this sort of. Uh, there's a lot of um, baggage that Kudo has at pretty much any time he talks to Kujudai, and I think it's expressed very well.
Mhm.
The Sui's performance, and then you have this sort of, I guess, uh, secondary lead. I don't really know how you'd, but she's Kujudai's like best friend, and she's kind of the one character that's sort of pushing her to be sort of come into her own, become her own person instead of living in the shadow of, uh, you know, this sort of version of her that once was kind of thing. Um, and she's voiced by Koga Aoi. She's this sort of very, you know, bubbly, blonde girl who, is kind of constantly happy-go-lucky. Um, and she does a pretty good job of that. Obviously, she's got some emotional scenes as well, which she does a very good job with. Um, but yeah, other than that, some bigger names here, there, and there as well in the cast, and they all do a pretty good job. But yeah, those are the sort of the main ones. Um,
Okay.
and yeah. Oh, okay, so I'm looking at it now, and apparently the other Kujudai is actually voiced by Yuriko Yamaguchi, who's
Oh, okay, so it is
a
2
bit of
split. Okay.
yeah, a much older name, and she does a
Mhm.
very good job with that as well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, yeah, the voice cast is very good. Um, but yeah, it's just I can't really say too much about this series again without like spoiling it, because it is so like there's a lot of layers of mystery in this. This is very much a mystery series, and I think it does the mystery very well. Um, it's kind of one of those series where pretty much every episode kind of gives a little bit of a twist or peels back the layers. It doesn't string you along very much at all. There are a lot of threads to this series. Like I said, there's this sort of corporate mystery series, or in the series, there's this weird like sci-fi stuff going on. Like there's this weird uh diamond shaped like UFO looking thing in the sky. Apparently this like sci-fi corporation is working on that's promising like immortality. There's weird stuff going on with Kowloon itself, where people are sort of questioning whether the city is even real or not. There's some weird supernatural stuff where the city itself is shifting. Um, like different alleyways and stuff are moving around. There are markets that will show up like randomly. There's a lot, like there's a lot of stuff going on in this series, and it's like surprisingly done very well. It doesn't feel convoluted. Um, there's some stuff here and there that feels a little bit of ham-fisted drama. Like one of the characters is very much kind of like, yeah, I'm an antagonist and I'm here to stir shit up. But I think as the series goes on, that sort of mellows out a little bit more. Um,
Mhm.
and it feels a little bit natural as it goes on. Um, so yeah, I mean, overall,
Can I ask real quick? How many episodes is this supposed to have?
so this is set for 13 episodes, and
Okay.
I don't see it really because again, I've only read up to kind of like what the anime is at right now, so I don't really have too much insight on how far along um the anime will go compared to the manga. Um,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, the manga is still going. Pretty sure. I'm not too sure how many chapters are out of the manga right now, but the manga's been going for quite a while, so there's probably a decent amount of material that they have to adapt. Um,
Okay.
so I'm not too sure how far this season is going to go. I don't know if it's going to get a second core or a second season or whatever. Um, but yeah, I'm not too sure how the ending is going to look. It'll probably just be kind of like a bit of a either it'll end on some sort of arc or it'll end on a cliffhanger and it'll basically be like, hey, go read go read the manga kind of thing. Um, I'm not too sure, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm not I don't really see it uh wrapping up in a super um like satisfactory
Proper
manner,
way?
just as like in terms of like just being a singular cohesive package. I'm guessing it'll probably have to get a season two at least to do that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think I'm pretty sure the manga is still going. So it's not like it's
Yeah.
the ending is decided or
Do you
anything.
think they will get a second season, or will they just leave it to the live action film maybe? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
I'm really not too sure. I don't know what Bandai Namco Filmworks wants to do with this series.
Mhm.
I mean, it's been pretty successful from what I've seen. It's gotten quite a bit of buzz online. Um, you know, I've seen quite a few people talking about it, even on Western Twitter.
Mhm.
Which Western Twitter usually only talks about like the top like two series of the season, right? Or whatever like shitty isekai is currently airing.
Right, right, right.
So it's a bit out of the norm, I guess, for sort of the Western sphere to pick up on something like this, but it's been decently popular, I think. I imagine it's probably fairly popular in Japan. Um, so it could get a second season, but I'm not too sure. I don't think there's been any announcement um
Mhm.
just yet. But I would
Okay.
ex- I would probably expect it to, because again, it's like, are you really going to pick up a like are you really going to adapt a series that's basically pure mystery and then like have no intentions of continuing it at all? You know,
Right,
unless
right, right.
unless it's
Especially since something like they knew this series was going to be very big, right? That's the thing. Like it's not this wasn't a, it's not like an episodic series where like even if the manga has 200 episodes or 200 excuse me chapters, they can just have 12 episodes and then run off into the sunset, right? This is a very they knew what the scope of this coming in, so
yeah. And I mean, with this being the After the Rain mangaka, I'm pretty sure the manga itself is quite popular as well. So
right, exactly.
um yeah, I imagine it'll probably get a second season, but when that comes, I have no idea. Um
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, any last words, I guess? Just wrapping up, and what would you rate it?
Um so Mal has it sitting right now at a 7.6, which I think is relatively fair. I'd probably personally bump it up to an 8. Again, I really like this series. I think it does the sort of um the how do I want to? There's a very um again, it's a very troubled romance, right? It's a very complicated
Mhm,
romance, and the romance is pretty strong in this series, right? Like it's pretty strong focus. Um, again, there is a lot of mystery in this, but the romance is sort of kind of like the backbone, right?
mhm,
It is the pull that keeps these characters sort of continuously interacting, right? And
mhm,
it's interesting because you don't get very many romance series um, in the anime sort of genre that is two grown ass adults that are, you know, interacting with each other, right? You usually have a much younger sort of cast of characters, right? These
or they don't
characters,
have they also don't have a how do I say this? A lot of those, like, adult romances are more just, like, you have a gimmick and then it becomes, like, an episodic, kind of
yeah, like
story
it's
based around that gimmick, but
two people in
it's
yeah,
not
it's just like
developing
two
those
people in an
characters. Yeah.
office, right? It's like, wow,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have a crush on each other, right? These are, they work together, but like their sort of working life is not depicted in this series, right? They're like
yeah. Mhm,
realtors, right? And their like working hours are maybe like 4 minutes out of an episode. Um,
mhm.
like their sort of working interactions are not the focus of this series. Very much you know um this sort of uh you know and again, it's not like a will they won't they kind of thing. It's like they very obviously have feelings for each other, but the feelings that they have are very conflicted, right? On Kudo's side, there's there's a lot of baggage there, like I said. um
Right.
And then on Kujirai's side, it's very much a she um recognizes that baggage, and her sort of feelings are like, you know, is it even fair of me to pursue this kind of thing?
Right,
Is it
right, right.
am I even doing the right thing for his sake for me to pursue something like this? Um
Mhm.
and it is a very complicated sort of dynamic they have going on. And it's pretty rare that you see a romance like that that's fairly uh complex and mature, and it's very much characters that are kind of like, is this even the right thing for us to do, as opposed to a simple, will they won't they kind of, does he like me, does he not like me kind of thing.
Mhm,
And it's a very interesting dynamic, and I think it's pulled off very well. um you know it's it's just really really good. um
mhm.
I like it a lot. It's the tone is very um like I don't want to say like I don't really want to say depressing because it's not depressing, but it has that sort of melancholy to it, right? Where every sort of interaction they have is sort of overcast, has this sort of overcast shadow of like, you know, they both know that they shouldn't do this kind of thing, right? But
Someone like
they can't really help themselves, right?
Yesterday Wo Tate or something like it's like a little bit more subdued, except without, having a twist and turn every time, right? As
Yeah,
many
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's just really good. It's refreshing, right? It's a
Mm,
refreshing dynamic to see, sort of in the genre. Um, I think it's done really well. I like it a lot.
mhm.
Um, again, there are some stuff that you can nitpick about it. Again, I think the sort of antagonist character, um, very early on is handled a bit. He's very obtrusive. I'll say, and it's kind of just like, does this guy really need to be here for this sort of dynamic to be happening?
Uh-huh.
And I think the author recognized that pretty early on and sort of pulled it back and had him be sort of an antagonist in a sort of different light. Because very early on, it's like, oh, is this going to be like a weird love triangle thing where like he's pursuing Kujurai, but she doesn't like she's not interested in kind of thing, and like it sets it up, and it kind of immediately is just like, this sucks actually, and it's not working, and
Mhm.
we're gonna
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
change the dynamic, which I think is was smart. Um, but yeah, um, yeah. Overall, I think I probably give it like an 8. Um, again, I haven't read past like what I've watched of the anime so far, so I can't comment on the how solid it remains. Um,
Mhm.
but like what I've read and what I've watched, I like a lot. Um,
Okay.
so I think this is a series that could have been genuinely one of the greats. But really the only thing that's like kind of holding it back is that the audio
The
visuals are a bit
Yeah, the
more
visuals. Yeah.
they're a bit more standard than I would have liked. It's not that there's anything
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily wrong with them. It's just that
Yeah.
coming from After the Rain, which was very much a very it was very visually unique, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's just to me, it's a shame that this series didn't get that treatment, basically.
Yeah, and again,
Um,
for as you go into, like, the 9s and closer to 10 territory, you're talking, like, you're competing with anime that's visibly, like, anime of the year, anime of the decade material,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so, but yeah. Anyways, thank you, Near, I guess, with that. What does it get on Mal?
It's sitting at a 7.6 on Mall.
Jesus Christ. But this was one hell of a series to cover, and I'm glad that you at least both had, you were one of the ones that actually read the manga and kept up, and I'm glad that also that this series, while it is still going to be 13 episodes, so we don't know how the ending of the anime is kind of gonna end up or whether potentially it has a danger of crashing and burning. But I'm glad that it's kind of panning out decently so far. So um, thank you for helping cover Kowloon generic romance. And again, this was a manga original, quite good. Done so being headed by Arvo Animation as and being helped out obviously by Bandai Namco Filmworks. And if you want to watch something a little bit more uncommon, but with something like uh still with a strong romantic undercurrent, maybe a little bit more of, some themes of like nostalgia, like allegory of the cave, like, what happens if we go out the outside of these walls kind of vibes happening. If you want to have like an interesting mix of that, obviously with some pretty great, obviously quite above average audio visuals, please do check this out.